Hi. This is our evening with...
Say, hi Amy, we miss you. Wish you were
No,
here.
this is going on YouTube.
Oh,
But Amy will probably watch, so it'll
Yeah.
work. It'll work.
See, this is...
Just say hi,
actually-
Amy, and everybody else.
This is
Yeah.
going to be so much fun, John. See how it happens? So Joe is our guest speaker tonight. He's
Yeah.
going to share something with us.
Oh, yeah.
He's
what else
a
were you gonna
vet.
say?
He's a vet
You
from
said you had
Vietnam.
something else to say.
Well, I saw, we'll go back to
Okay, look at the camera though.
Oh, you can look
No,
at
you don't
them.
want to look at the
Yeah.
my first active duty assignment was, well, Fort Sill. That was artillery training. That's where the artillery school is. And there I got sent to Fort Lewis, Washington, which is outside of Seattle. And that was a Honest John 8-inch howitzer unit. One of the batteries was 8-inch howitzers. The other one was rockets, not necessarily. What's am I searching? No, not controls necessarily. We got stuck in as part of the survey unit, and the job of the survey team is to go out and survey into firing points so that we could at least be close to on target for the practice shoots that they did. And the Honest John rocket sat on the back of a long trailer, and it had a compartment in it, which is where your armament was. And so having, as I recall, what I wanted to do from there, because our battalion XO was after me to become a helicopter pilot. And when the paperwork came back, they said, nope, we don't need helicopter pilots right now. We're going to send you on your next assignment. That happened to be Germany. So off I went to Germany, and we had a detachment there in a British regiment area. Actually, there were two British. One of them was an 8-inch unit, so we were there as trainers, whatever you want, trainers. We had a bunker area that was outside of where the British units hung out, and the bunkers housed the warheads, and the British provided the security at the outpost, and U.S. was inside that circle, and there were three of us that rotated the security of the place. So it was basically every hour or two, we drove from our location to the bunker location, went through the checklist, and went back home. There was a funny part about all this is that obviously the U.S. guys would tease the Brits and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember pulling up one day, and they had a loudspeaker hooked up, and our guys were playing Johnny Horton and the Battle of New Orleans. You know, we fired our guns and the British went around.
Fired our guns and the British kept it running.
And of course, you can imagine the Brits sitting there looking on. They didn't have a comeback. Luckily, they didn't, because we had to go bring them home from the bar with a broken beer bottle on their head.
Yeah, bar fights.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I was there a year and a half.
Year and a half in Germany,
Maybe two, I don't know.
or two.
So, but you went after the wall was down, so you weren't there when it was
No,
divided?
I was there. I went right from Germany. I went to Vietnam.
From Germany to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Wow.
And we already hit that part of it, so that's a small piece of it.
Yeah.
Have to
Well,
sit down and
Joseph,
remember
these
some of
people
this
gotta
stuff.
go to bed.
No, we're
Yeah.
good. We're good. We're enjoying
Are you
this.
leaving in the morning?
No.
No, Wednesday morning. Early Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning?
Early.
Well, it's
In the
nice
middle
coming
of-
over and got to talk to you again
Yeah.
and meet you,
It was
John.
great to meet you
You're a
guys.
sweetheart,
You don't
too.
have to
Yeah.
go
We got-
anywhere. Just relax. We're good. Joe's
They're
gonna have a little
happy.
snack.
I know. This is the first I've heard him talk in a long time. I thought you're a good
Great.
listener.
Well, I feel really grateful to be able for you to share some stories with me. That means a lot to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's stories I've never heard before.
You just missed one of the best ones.
Oh, what was the ending? What'd you do?
Oh, the one,
With the British?
Yeah.
Which story did you
where the
throw in the
British-
glasses? No. They all would drink and they would throw their glasses in the fireplace.
No, they would throw them at the pictures of the Queen over the.
Oh,
Really?
you told me fireplace, I didn't know it
They
was the
finished
Queen.
their
Oh,
they
no,
would finish
no.
their drink and just chuck the
No,
bottle at the Queen.
No.
They were wild people, yeah.
That's separate.
That was separate?
The British officers mess. They would have dinings out, you know, new people coming in, new of them leaving. So we had to keep up the camaraderie, we had to go to these things. And they usually started out with, I guess, what do trying to see which went first. Well, maybe both. They drank a lot. They had the get to know you kind of thing going on. Then they'd all adjourn to the dining area, and the only two places that were set were at either end of the table. The most junior officer, and I forget what the title of it was on the other end. They were responsible to keep the wine bottles moving both ways. And then then everybody have a story to tell, and they'd get through with all their welcomes, and they'd adjourn to another rest area, basically, and start the drinking games. It got messy. If you had your dress blues on, you get,
I bet.
well, you know, one of them was the starting position was at the base of the fireplace, and you had to low crawl to where the beer was at the other end of the room, and back and touch the fireplace to get the clock to stop. And by then your uniform was really
Probably had holes in your elbows. And,
yeah, 'cause you. But the good thing was then we go out on maneuvers. Is you got to sleep in a cot.
instead of on the floor.
And had a Batman who would come and straighten up your tent.
They had it made.
Yeah, that was only a couple of days.
Only a couple days of that. Yeah.
Wow.
Russell
Yeah.
did time in the Gulf War.
Oh, you did? How was that?
Oh, well, thank God it was a brief war. So in terms of combat, what the Gulf War did for me was give me a taste of what I think these guys in Vietnam experienced, and the ones that went through Korea or through World War II. So to me, it was a life-changing experience, but it gave me the deepest kind of appreciation for all the people that went through those things. Oh, man.
But the
When I worked for ETE, is that like how many? We sent 6 guys and 6 transportable antennas that we had to build in Pennsylvania. And we flew out of Dover to be there when the kickoff was for the Gulf War. Some of the trailers didn't make it back. They either fell over because they were top heavy, I'm not sure. But I had 6 guys that went over there with them.
Oh. Wow.
And we managed it from the office building there. 724, it says keep track of where everything was.
Okay.
Where were you? Was this when you were in DC?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Where were you working there when this was
Actually,
going on?
my captain, my commander posted a picture on Facebook today because February 24th was the day the ground war started. Today.
Oh.
Yeah, the ground war started on this day.
Oh.
So he posted a few pictures, and I thought one of them might be one. This is, you guys can probably see this here. This is we had to face the Russian T-55 tanks
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
T-74.
Were
But
you
we,
in that?
We were driving these tanks.
Oh, you were driving that? tank?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
that's
is
Russians.
these are the
Oh.
Russian tanks that the Iraqi army had. They called them the Iraqi Elite Guard. But at some point, it was the biggest tank battle in all of history. Actually.
Really?
So
Yeah.
were you engaging in combat there?
Yeah, we had situations that we were shooting other tanks that were either manned, in other words, people in them, or sometimes they would abandon a tank for whatever reason, but we would be and that's my captain, that's my company commander.
Is that the one he's just sent you the picture?
Yeah, he posted these pictures here today. That's he stayed in and retired, and then he ended up doing a job for the U.S. government, going and researching and finding people who had been considered missing in action, and he would go find them and return them to their families.
Really?
Some people
How
from
many
World
did
War
he-
II.
Oh.
I would have to check and see how many.
Ask you what period did it cover? It goes way back, huh?
It goes way back, yes. And he said to me, what a fulfilling job that has been.
Finding.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Wonder how many he found?
it's a good question. Unfortunately, though, he has cancer.
What was that?
That is so, this is my tank crew and me standing in front of our tank. I'm the little guy next to the black guy there. So that guy was the gunner on our tank. There's
Uniforms
4
are
people on the
I was
tank.
going to ask, how many?
4 people. There's 3 of them up there in the turret. And
That's
so,
him, the second one.
so in the turret, you've got your gunner, your loader,
Yep.
and your tank commander. And then I was the driver, so I had my own spot down here in the front. And I really had the most comfortable seat on the tank. In fact, there were times that we would have to stay awake for over 36 hours, and 48 hours. And I would be so tired down there. I'd start falling asleep. And you're driving in
Don't you get
formation.
claustrophobic?
You have to stay in. I wouldn't get claustrophobic because,
No.
again, I was pretty. I had quite a bit of space. You could see though McFadden, the gunner on my tank. He's a tall guy.
Yes.
And usually the tank guys are usually kind of, I'm like 5'7" or something. They're usually kind of smaller.
Like jockeys.
But McFadden, I bet he was like 5'11", maybe 6 foot.
So he was uncomfortable probably.
So, but the gunner, so they're all up there sitting on these upright seats, and if they get tired or have to take a little nap, they just kind of prop their head against something metal because everything in there's metal. And in the desert, when you're waking up in the morning,
It's got to be hot in there.
it was actually so cold in the morning when you're waking up, because we got there too in January and February. So these are times that I was expecting hot actually, But we're waking up in the morning and it was like 35, 40 degrees.
Ooh.
Oh.
And
And
you're
you're in
surrounded
metal?
by metal. And you know, I was just thinking, I wish I would have brought some long johns over here or
Yeah.
something, because
Oh, yeah.
it's not at all. But
Now, what country are you in?
we flew into Saudi Arabia, and then we offloaded our tanks, and then we got them out there in the desert, and ended up heading into Kuwait. So we had to liberate Kuwait because Saddam Hussein had taken over that country. And I remember the oil fires burning. So we were, you know, we defeated them. And Saddam Hussein, when they were losing, he just started lighting all those oil wells on fire.
Oh.
So we're out there washing, you know, to take a shower, we just stand under the gun tube of the tank with a canvas bag up here, and somebody will pour water into the bag and it just trickles down on you. That's like your shower. And then to go to the bathroom, you just use an ammo box and go sit over there in the desert. I mean, so everything, there were no comforts, you know, for this whole time. Washing your clothes by hand just in a bucket with a little water and a little soap, and then hanging your clothes over the gun tube of the tank or over the little rack. The army, defeat them there, which thank God, actually the combat that we experienced, we had some people fighting back, but the majority of the soldiers that we came across were surrendering. So I was very happy to see so many people just surrendering. I mean, the very first, when we crossed that berm and went in for the ground war, and you know, with our 50 caliber and our you know, the firepower on a tank is tremendous and can shoot a long distance. Like the person you're shooting at may not even hear, may not even know there's a tank nearby. They just see like bullets hitting the ground around their feet. They're just like, I don't even know where these are coming from. So, I remember we went in there, and my gunner, Mark McFadden, the black guy there, he was going, oh my God, look at that. Look at that. And I can't see because he's got all his sights, you know, he's got his scopes. And so I'm down there going, what are you seeing? You know, I'm talking on my CVC.
You're thinking you're gonna run
And
into
yeah,
somebody.
I didn't know. I'm just like, what's coming up? And he says, they're all surrendering. They're all giving up. So there's a line of probably 140 plus Iraqi soldiers walking with this big giant white flag between them.
Wow.
And they were walking, and then they would all get down and do their little bowing thing. They had a, you know, bowing down to their God, you know, to Allah or whatever. And then they'll get up and they'll keep walking. So at least when we entered that ground war, thankfully for the most part, the people were just scared. I mean, and a lot of these Iraqi soldiers were living in holes in the ground. They didn't have much food. They had
So
some.
did you stop in and capture them or what?
Our job as the frontline people was to simply instruct them all to drop their weapons, and then we would just send them back behind us, where the engineering group behind us would pick them up and put them into a prison camp.
No.
But they were better cared for in the prison camp than they were in the holes in the ground. In fact, even
Even
after the ground war was finished, there was, you know, we're just parked in some strange area, and there are occasional little houses around which are very interesting looking there to me. I mean, the house is like just a little rectangle kind of house with maybe plaster walls, and if it was a farmhouse, it might have two floors, and the people sometimes they would have animals living in the house too, and then the people would sleep upstairs. I mean, it was unique. But anyway, it was after the ground war was finished, and I was sleeping in my driver's hole taking a little nap, daytime, and I heard my tank commander up here start yelling like, I mean, he was going crazy, and so I popped up out of my driver's hole, and I'm looking around, I'm reaching for my M16, and I'm just checking what's going on. There was an Iraqi soldier right beside our tank, probably 20 feet away after the war's finished, but he's still holding his weapon, and my tank commander had his rifle on him saying, drop your weapon, you know, yelling at him. So the guy puts it down, and then he's just like really scared. And then my tank commander, you know, we don't know what to do with him because we're not at war anymore. It was finished.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy was begging us to take him because he said
He didn't want
he
to go
wanted
back.
us to take him. He said he was saying if he goes back, like he will be put to death.
Oh.
Because Saddam Hussein was threatening all his soldiers, saying if you surrender, if you get
What
defeated,
did you do?
it seems to me like my tank commander took him over to a couple other people to talk to him, but we couldn't take him. We couldn't take him prisoner. So they just talked to him and ended up sending him back wherever he needed to go.
Yeah.
And here was what made us very upset, though, is I was actually part of the group that was parked in an area to guard the peace talks after the war was finished, right? But we knew that we could go into Iraq and just get this guy, Saddam Hussein. We knew we could go in there and get him. And all of us soldiers were thinking, we might as well get that guy. He's such he caused all this, you know, he lit all those things on fire. I mean, there were days that after washing our clothes and hanging them up, they would be covered with black soot from all that,
Well, and you had the burn pits.
all that oil, all the burn pits and all the
Burn
oil
pits that
fires.
caused so much illness.
Oh,
I mean, there were days that it was like the sky was just darkened.
You're
with,
breathing that, too.
and we were breathing it all in. It was not good.
no. How's
But
your lungs?
So you didn't go in.
I've actually had respiratory issues.
Oh.
But you didn't get to go in after him.
No, we didn't get to go in after him, and sure enough, then of course there was the second war event, but that was very upsetting to us soldiers. I will say a special thing happened though. We were parked near this one of these little farm kind of houses, and I remember, you know, I'm a young man. We're in our war machine. We're parked here. We can see the people going in and out of their house over there, and I'm thinking, I bet they really don't like us because here, look at us here. We're soldiers, war machine, their property, and toward the evening, this whole family, like this mom and this guy, this lady guy, and a couple of children came out of the house, walked toward us, and they're carrying like a platter and like this silver tea kettle and these little cups, and they came over and they laid out this big kind of blanket thing on the ground, and they were gesturing us to please come off the tank. And so we felt safe, you know, we're kind of just watching carefully, but we felt safe. So we come off the tank and they sit down, their food, they had some rice, they had some fresh tomatoes, and they had this tea, and they gave each of us a cup of tea on their property. And I just remember thinking, this is special. Like
That's special.
they're treating us in a way that
Right.
is respectful and honoring. And I also remember driving.
It had to be scary though too.
Well, there were times that we had to be.
If you're going to trust them.
Yes, that's true. And I think
More
we.
so in Nam, I bet.
I bet even
Yeah,
scarier
yeah.
for these guys
Oh,
because
'cause
they had to eat children and stuff. I mean, for us, even driving through the villages, though, many people would come out and cheer for us because you know we're liberating Kuwait from this tyrannical dictator.
Right.
And even then, when we were in Iraq, after Kuwait, we went into Iraq, and even in Iraq, the people were cheering for us.
yeah.
And then us soldiers, we had a lot of MREs. You know, did you guys have the MREs? The
No,
meals?
it was sea rations.
Sea rations at that time. Ours were in these brown bags and these little cardboard things and these. I could actually heat my food up on the back of the tank, though. That was kind of nice.
We heated up ours in
Yeah.
Did you have other?
You did on this? Okay.
You just roll it up, put a little light to it, and it gets awful hot.
Oh,
Used to do my beefsteak with tomatoes and gravy on there.
beef
That was my
steak,
favorite one.
beef steak
Did
with
you have
tomatoes and
cookies?
gravy.
No cookies.
No cookies.
They
You
had-
know, I remember.
They had
something else.
cigarettes in there and
Yeah,
cigars.
those guys had cigarettes and cigars in there.
You know, I had the opportunity to meet one of the interpreters that helped our attorneys try Hussein
Really?
Wow. What did they have to try him for? Wasn't it pretty
for
well
his crimes.
War crimes.
pretty well proven?
And she and her husband ended up coming to where I lived, which I'm not going to say a lot on this video.
Okay.
But
Of
anyway.
course. And I can always pause it
No,
too.
that's okay. So, anyway, he was from Turkey originally, she was from Croatia. And they were so excited about the liberation. And so, her husband and he didn't speak much English. I taught him a few words that probably weren't appropriate. But anyway, we watched that Will Smith movie, Independence Day. And he's like, Will Smith! That's about the only, but he knew. He said they said that was like it was for them when they were liberated. And they wouldn't talk about Hussein very much because it was
He
so
was evil.
bad.
He was
Yeah.
a bad guy.
Yeah.
But her dad had worked for him at one point.
Ooh.
He was an attorney and I believe an engineer. And Anyway, and they're safe now. They became U.S. citizens
All
and
right.
did it the correct way. But she risked her life to be the interpreter for the 3 attorneys that went over there and worked,
Wow.
which I knew a couple of them. But that was quite a deal. And I remember when it was on TV where they tried him and executed him. Remember that?
That's right, that's right.
They executed him on TV. Or they just announced it.
I think it was, I don't know, I think it was if I remember correctly, it was like not a facsimile, what would you call it? A symbolic.
Yeah, it was. You know, when we were there, there were public executions still happening, and
By him, his regime?
Well, just in the Arabic culture, they would still execute people, and they would, like, for stealing or something, cut somebody's hand off, or I remember the culture was so strange to me because the men, they'll be standing with their stuff on under these kind of like little canopy things, and the women are over there working out in the fields and carrying stuff, and it was like the men weren't working. Also, we were told when we first went there, you soldiers, we know how you guys like to catcall at the women. You like to yell at them and do your whistling, and they said, do not do this here, because if you do this to one of these women, she may very well go home and get beaten because she will be blamed. She's treated like property, and she will be blamed for the fact that you're whistling at her. So that was just so strange.
Well, before this couple came to America, her mother, they were staying with her mother, and if you had an antenna on the house for TV or news or whatever, and they found it or knew it, you would go to prison.
Oh.
And somebody came to the house and was knocking, and she was terrified that they had seen the antenna that they had put up there.
Oh.
And so she had to stall, her mother had to stall long enough for her to go up. She fell off the roof trying to get the antenna down. But anyway, they just came to do a census. But anyway, she was just sure they were coming to get them.
Scared, living scared.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And at the time, I had a home that was empty. And it was made out of a lot of timbered wood off of the property, like tongue and groove.
Oh.
And it would swell, and it would pop. At night or when it got cold, it would make a popping sound like bullets. And they were going to live there for a while. And so I told them that first night, I said, now, don't be alarmed, but you may hear sounds that sound like gunshots. But it's just the wood. She said, have you forgotten where we just came from? You'll be okay.
I can't believe you did that.
I mean, they were so used to bullets, real bullets flying. Yeah.
Oh, I don't imagine how you can live like that. Hearing bullets and things.
Well, they were pretty brave to come.
I guess.
And to integrate into our culture, and they wanted to be Americans. They wanted to do it the right way, and they wanted to be good citizens.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun times.
Well,
And then he would try to teach me words. And he would teach me stuff, and I would think I understood what we were talking about. And then I would repeat it to her, and she'd go, where did you hear that? No, don't be saying that.
You're saying the wrong thing.
That's funny. That's funny.
Anyway, so
so their English was pretty good then.
hers was excellent. She was better speaking English than I was. But he had very little at the time. But he'd go, Medi, 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 Medi.
But they were both from separate countries.
Yeah, but they were, originally.
Uh-huh.
He kept saying, I want you to go to meet my father. You'd like my father. And I said, well, where's your mother? With my father. No, that's not how we do it here. Anyway, they were just delightful, very smart, and he had been an engineer over there.
Uh-huh.
And they've done fine.
Where do they still live in the States here? Somewhere?
They do.
Where? You can't say where they are,
I'd
probably.
rather not.
Okay, that's fine.
But they left our area and moved to another state where one of the attorneys that helped.
Mm.
There were 3 attorneys, one out of DC and one out of Kansas and one there out of our town
Wow.
that did that trial. Anyway, it was a joy getting to know them. And it was an experience taking them shopping or introducing them to like a grocery store or whatever. You know?
And
I can imagine.
watching how everything was different or new to them.
They like to shop.
I bet they do.
We had
They
that in
do.
common.
They come to America, they love to shop.
Yeah, we had that in common. We were sitting in the parking lot at a grocery store, and I had said to the gal, I said, you go in, this is what we need, and you can do this, you don't need to be worried, you're going to be safe. And she said, okay. And so he and I were sitting there with the baby, they had a little baby, and we're trying to talk, because again, I don't speak his language and he doesn't speak mine. So he's gathering up stuff that had snacks, or we had ice cream, I don't remember. But he's gathering it all. I'm going to take it and put it in the trash can, right? So he gets out of the car and he goes over this way. The trash can's over here, but he goes this way. And I'm like, I wonder where he's going. And it's a big mailbox. And he starts to chunk it in, and I'm like, no, that's a mailbox. I could just see us getting arrested for sticking trash in the mailbox. But it looked like a trash can to him. That was so funny.
That's really funny.
I thought it was hilarious.
We had a couple lived next door to us in Virginia. He was from Jordan and she was German, but they raised their kids Muslims. And they always, had their time and everything. Come Easter time, the kids come running over. We found a bunny. There's a little bunny here. There's a little bunny here. So we all went over to see the bunnies, and I looked at him and I said, wouldn't you know you're the one that got the Easter bunny?
Oh, Virgie.
So did they find this? Was it just in their yard?
There was
or?
a nest of them.
A nest,
in their
okay.
front
A bunch
yard,
of babies.
in the shrubbery.
Yes.
But he got the Easter bunny.
You got the Easter
Of
bunny.
course, they're Muslims. They don't believe in Easter.
Yes.
That's perfect.
But she said they had so much money they would go to Jordan. She had to take the kids to Jordan every summer and spend with his family, so they would know the tradition and everything.
Okay.
So finally, he finally told her, "You got to go now. We all are going to go live in Jordan. 3 years. You got to stay." She stayed, but she came back. But she said a lot of American wives.
Oh.
And their houses were like mansions. They all men would all come back to the state. They were all in the jewelry business in Miami.
Yeah.
So they'd be gone most of the time in Miami, but they send the wives back to Jordan.
Oh.
She said she went to one house, and a girl said, because they had like American ladies, luncheons and stuff together. They would do things together. She went to one house and it was a big mansion. And she says, oh, yeah, go down, I'll show you the workout room. And they went to the workout room. But in one part of it was a basketball court, like the Los Angeles. It was a Los Angeles team. It was a replica of that basketball court in
Lakers?
the basement.
Wow.
Was it the Lakers? I think something like that. Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
In their house.
In their house.
Oh.
Yes, in the house, in the basement.
A lot of wealth
That-
over there.
Yeah,
That oil
oh,
is
yeah.
a lot of money.
Because, we hosted those Japanese students. We also hosted some Saudi Arabian students, some students from Saudi Arabia. And one of them was talking about his house. And I said, he lived in Riyadh. His family was from this big city of Riyadh. So I said, what does your house look like? So he pulled up this Google Maps. And he said, I could show you my house. And he pulled it up, and it's like a whole city.
Complex.
It's a whole block. It's a whole city block.
His home.
He said, so my family is here, and then but it's all his family basically owning this whole city block, and it's just these massive houses all lining the whole outside of the block. And they've got a couple swimming pools in there, and I just go, wow, it looks like you guys do well.
Yeah.
So they were there for college?
Yeah, they were at SEMO, Southeast Missouri State. Isn't that interesting? We hosted a couple of students from Saudi Arabia. You probably remember Ahmed was one of them, and he would call me Rusly or he would call me
Yes, Wesley.
my American father. He
Oh,
would
yeah.
say that. Yeah. Yes, Wesley.
Yes, Wesley.
Yeah.
Yes, no problem.
Yes, and the other one was Fahed. And Fahed couldn't speak any English at all. And so he would go use our shower, which was like a normal shower. But when I would go in the bathroom, then later, the whole bathroom is soaking wet. And I was just thinking, what is going on? Like, what? So, we have a shower curtain in here. And so I would try to get him and bring him in here. And I'd say, okay, when you take a shower, you stand here, close this curtain and do this oh, yes, of course, I understand. This is all he would ever say. Yes, of course, I understand.
Yes, no
That's
problem.
it. Yes, no problem. I understand.
Yes,
He
no
would just
problem.
keep repeating this. So I'm like,
He
okay,
didn't
it doesn't look like you understand. And the next time he's in the bathroom, everything's soaking wet. So the only thing I could figure is in their bathrooms, they must just have a big open room and the water just goes everywhere and that doesn't matter. But in our house, it mattered because we have these floors and we have everything else in the bathroom and it's all soaking. But
How long was he there?
he was there for a whole semester, I think.
He never got better. Did you
He
think
couldn't
about-
talk. He couldn't. And the way the Saudi Arabian guys, they were just, they would just do their own thing, and then they would show up with some candy bars to give to the children, and they would just treat everybody like, okay, no problem, I understand. But they were just really dismissive about everything. The Japanese students made us feel like barbarians because they would sit down at the table for dinner with us, but anything that they passed, they always do it like this with two hands. They're, where our children are reaching over the table and grabbing things. And as soon as we finished eating, the Japanese students are offering to help clean up, and they're very helpful. Everything they do is like, we're part of a community here. But the Saudi Arabians were like, whatever, you guys don't mean anything.
We had our neighbors, they had a tour in Saudi Arabia.
Oh.
They loved it there.
I bet.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
it was-
did. They loved it. They were there 3 years.
Well, yeah, you own a whole city
He
block.
wasn't military, he was civilian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But didn't she have to wear certain types of?
No, she said most of the time they just wore American.
Because it's
American
been
clothes.
probably
Yeah, yeah.
25 years ago that Procter and Gamble did some work over there, and I know some people that know there, and she could not be out unattended, and, there's a lot of
Yeah, for the
rules.
women, it could be a little, it seems like, depending on where they are, where
Yeah.
they're going, is it a more
don't know exactly.
traditional place
Yeah.
or more orthodox place, I guess. They have to be kind of careful.
Yeah, because it was mostly most Americans there together, yeah.
Well, this has been a very interesting conversation with
yes.
neighbors.
Yeah. We've kept this poor boy up, bless your heart, listening to us.
No, it's been very interesting.
You didn't know all this about your dad, did you?
I actually have heard most of these stories.
Yeah, you
I think.
heard it.
Yeah. It's always cool to hear them again, though.
I
This
think
is
it's interesting
Kind of
to
a
hear
special
about your
trip for
parents.
the two of them to be
Yeah.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is cool.
John, tell Virgie about what you're going to be marketing.
Oh, yes. So,
Are you in marketing? Is that it?